Hi guys. I am going to talk you through the steps for your Finding Freedom speech. Be sure to pause as needed to make sure that you have everything. So, for step one, we already talked about it yesterday in class. Be sure that you have picked your topic from the list of freedoms selected. If you would like to pick something different, that is more than fine. Just be sure that you have a stated claim that you are able to make. Step two, meet with a few other people who selected your freedom and gather evidence on your topic from the 13 texts we have read in class. Do not forget to label the evidence with the correct matching number of the text so that it is easier for you to cite your evidence when you actually write your speech. If you spend more than 15 to 20 minutes on this, you will not have time to write enough of your speech. So just be mindful of that. And this goes in the third column of your trifold. Also be mindful that if you are making a disruption while you are moving back and forth, you will not be allowed to do so and you will have to do everything on your own. So make sure that your voice level is appropriate as you are transitioning with people who have your topic and then going back to your seats to continue your speech. If this does not work out, it will take you longer. And please keep in mind, I am grading your speech when before I come back because it is actually due to be typed in on Thursday. Okay, so I am going to read the steps to you. As I do so, read the speech part and see how this is actually by Malcolm X, that he draws his reader and focuses his main point. Then go ahead and just pause and write that section of your speech. Please note, this speech is about how America, spell check, sorry, America needs to give blacks the opportunity to vote for people that they want to run for office or people that will help them get the rights that they deserve. His argument is if they're not allowed to use the ballot and to vote properly, then they would turn to fighting and violence. So you see how he automatically draws his audience in. This is going to be helpful for you by helping us. Okay. So step three, we're going to talk about writing your introduction. Here you should detail your life without freedom and then create a scene that tells about how life could be if freedom was granted. So keep in mind, your list of freedom in which you're arguing can be kind of different depending on your wording. So when I say to create this scene, tie your audience. Like, how are you going to make your audience listen to you? So Malcolm X says, Mr. Moderator, Brother Lamox, brothers and sisters, friends and enemies. I just can't believe everyone in here is a friend and I don't want to leave anybody out. The question tonight, as I understand it, is the Negro Revolt and where do we go from here? Or what next? In my little humble way of understanding it, it points toward either the ballot or the bullet. Before we try to explain what is meant by the ballot or the bullet, I would like to clarify something concerning myself. I'm still a Muslim. My religion is Islam. It's my personal belief, just as Adam Clayton Powell is a Christian minister who heads the Abyssinian Baptist Church in New York, but at the same time takes part in the political struggles to bring about rights to the black people in this country. And Dr. Martin Luther King is a Christian minister down in Atlanta, Georgia, who heads another organization fighting for the civil rights of black people in this country. I am not here to argue or discuss anything we differ about because it's time for us to submerge our differences and realize that it is best for us to first see that we have the same problem, common problem. Whether you're educated or illiterate, whether you live on the boulevard or in the alley, you're going to catch hell just like I am. We're all in the same boat and we're all going to catch the same hell from the same man. He just happens to be man. All of us have suffered here in this country political oppression at the hands of the man, economic exploitation at the hands of the man, and social degradation at the hands of the man. If we don't do something real soon, I think you'll have to agree that we're going to be forced either to use the ballot or the bullet. It's one or the other in 1964. It isn't that time is running out, time has run out. Okay, so you see how He first addresses, hey, don't pay attention to like my religion or your religion or whatever differences that we have. That's not what we're talking about. So he kind of brings his audience in to what the root of the issue is. And then once he has their attention, he says, hey, we have this common problem. And then he actually explains the problem. So he brings them in emotionally and he talks about the issues that they've had, political, economic, and social. And then he goes right into his claim. We have to do something to change what is happening right now. So once again, he tells that story just like you should. He uses this emotional tie-in to get his audience hooked. And then he gives his claim specifically. Go ahead and pause right here and go ahead and write your introduction. Okay, so now that you have your introduction, the next part is to write your body. This part of the speech discusses the details of your main points with real world connections and includes the evidence that you have gathered. You should also bring the reader into your topic with rhetorical devices. So you already used an emotional appeal in your introduction. Now you're going to use other appeals to make sure that they are paying attention to your actual claim and will want to agree with you. Please, please, please keep in mind your body will take the majority of time to write. Do not right now think about those powerful words and that connotation and those similes and those structures and techniques. At this point, you're just getting your main points, your evidence that you've gathered, and like a different rhetorical device and pulling that together. We'll revise later. So Malcolm X says, 1964 threatens to be the most explosive year America has ever witnessed. The most explosive year. Why? It's also a political year. It's the year of the politicians. We'll be back in the so-called Negro community jiving you and me for some votes. The year when all the political crooks will be right back in your my community with their false promises, building up our hopes for a letdown with their trickery and their treachery, with their false promises which they don't intend to keep. As they nourish these dissatisfactions, it can only lead to one thing, an explosion. Don't let anybody tell you anything about the odds are against you. If they draft you, they send you to Korea and make you face 800 million Chinese. If you can be brave over there, you can be brave right here. These odds aren't as great as those odds. And if you fight here, you will at least know what you're fighting for. I'm not a politician, not even a student of politics. In fact, I'm not a student of much of anything. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I don't even consider myself an American. If you and I were Americans, there'd be no problems. Well, I'm not one who doesn't believe in deluding myself. I'm not going to sit at your table and watch you eat with nothing on my plate and call myself a diner. Sitting at the table doesn't make you a diner unless you eat some of what's on that plate. Being here in America doesn't make you an American. Being born here in America doesn't make you an American. Why, if birth made you American, you wouldn't need any legislation. You wouldn't need any amendments to the Constitution. You wouldn't be faced with civil rights filibustering in Washington, D.C. right now. They don't have to pass civil rights legislation to make a Pollock an American. No, I'm not an American. I'm one of the 22 million black people who are victims of Americanism. One of 22 million black people who are victims of democracy. Nothing but disguised hypocrisy. So I'm not standing here speaking to you as an American or a patriot or a flag saluter or a flag waver. No, I'm not. I'm speaking as a victim of this American system. And I see America through the eyes of the victim. I don't see any American dream. I see an American nightmare. These 22 million victims are waking up. Their eyes are coming open. They're beginning to see what they used to only look at. They're becoming politically mature. They are realizing that there are new political trends from coast to coast. As they see these new political trends, it's possible for them to see that every time there's an election, the races are so close that they have to do a recount. They have a recount in Massachusetts where to see who is going to be governor. It was so close. In the same way in Rhode Island, Minnesota, and other parts of the country. And the same with Kennedy and Nixon when they ran for president. It was so close they had to count all over. What does that mean? It means that when people are evenly divided and black people have a block of votes in their own, it is left up to them to determine who's going to sit in the White House and who's going to be in the doghouse. So y'all right here, he's giving his examples, but then he's explaining why that matters to his claim. So both times, the first time he gave the war example and why that matters to his claim. This time he is giving why the vote is so important to his claim. So that's when I say give your evidence, yours should be in quotation marks, and then explain what it means. He goes on to say, it was a black man's vote that put the present administration in Washington, D.C. Your vote, your dumb vote, your ignorant vote, your wasted vote put an administration in Washington, D.C. that has seen fit to pass every kind of legislation imaginable, saving you until last. Then filibustering on top of that, and your and my leaders have the audacity to run around clapping their hands and talk about how much progress we're making. And what a good president we have. And if he wasn't good in Texas, he wouldn't be good in Washington, D.C. because Texas is a lynch state. In the same breath as Mississippi, no different. Only they lynch you in Texas with the Texas accent, they lynch you in Mississippi with the Mississippi accent. What kind of logic is that? So right here, he's beginning to say to them, it's not just having the vote. It is what you are doing with that vote. So he is drawing his audience. And remember, he's talking to a group of black people who want to make change. He is trying to convince them and whatever other people are there that if you do not give us the vote the way we want it, things will have to go a little further. And he wants to remind people that we already have the vote and it's doing nothing. So we need to actually go a step further. We need to be able to vote for those we want to vote for. So at this point, you're going to pause and write out your body. This is going to take the most time because right now you're telling me why the freedoms that you chose should come back. You need to have at least 2 or 3 reasons. Then you need to support the reason. So you're going to first list your reason. If the freedom that you chose is, let's say, freedom of the press, that wasn't your option, that's why I'm using it. If you chose freedom of the press, why? Freedom of the press is important because it gets people to be able to listen to things that they would have never listened to without you fearing anything will happen to you. And then I would give evidence. Barack Obama said, blah, whatever, according to the Dreamers Act, blah, blah, blah. This shows us that freedom of freedom of the press is important. Just getting the word out is important. Remember when we were a small group of colonies? There was no talk of revolution until people began to write pamphlets, that people begin to get newspapers involved in our personal search for liberty. There would have been no American Revolution without the press. So you see that is drawing, like you're drawing the reader in to what you want. At this point, I'm going to stop the video and move on to another one. I only have a 15-minute max, y'all. I ain't paid for the real version. This is the free version. So we got 15 minutes. So I'm going to pause. Do not start the second video until you have written out your entire body. Y'all, this is going to take a super long time. Okay? Make sure that it is well developed. Bye.